During World War II, over 400,000 German prisoners of war were interned in the United States. Among the camps housing these POWs was Camp Sheridan, located in the rural expanses of Alabama. Established in 1943, this camp was part of a broader network designed to house and utilize the labor of German soldiers captured in Europe. This documentary narrative examines a distinct moment in time when German prisoners, accustomed to a vastly different socio-economic structure, observed the American civilian life around them. Specifically, the practice of purchasing homes, a concept largely inaccessible to them in their homeland. Camp Sheridan, situated on the outskirts of Montgomery, Alabama, was designed to accommodate approximately 3,000 prisoners at its peak capacity. The layout of the camp included a series of barracks aligned in neat rows, administrative buildings, a mess hall, and recreational areas. Guard towers punctuated the perimeter, manned by units from the 4th Service Command who ensured the security and order within the camp. The daily life of the prisoners was regimented, with a strict adherence to schedules and regulations as outlined by the U.S. Army Provost Marshal General. Prisoners at Camp Sheridan were engaged in various labor activities as authorized by the War Department circulars. They worked in agricultural fields, supporting the war effort through the cultivation and harvest of crops. Others were employed in local canneries and lumber mills, or assisted with the maintenance of railroad infrastructure vital for wartime logistics. Agricultural labor contracts were meticulously documented, and prisoners received wages in the form of scrip, credit that could be used at the camp canteen for purchasing goods such as cigarettes, toiletries, and limited luxury items. These wages were part of a broader rationing policy, ensuring the equitable distribution of resources both within the camp and in the surrounding civilian population. The food systems within Camp Sheridan were governed by strict rationing policies, reflective of the broader wartime economy. Meals were prepared in the camp's mess hall, with menus planned to meet nutritional standards set forth by the U.S. military. The quantity and quality of food varied, often dependent on the success of local agricultural outputs and contributions from Red Cross inspections that ensured humane treatment. The prisoners' diet was supplemented by the camp's small vegetable garden, tended by the POWs themselves, providing a semblance of autonomy and normalcy amidst their internment. While the POWs were largely segregated from the local civilian population, limited interactions did occur, particularly when prisoners were deployed for labor in nearby communities. It was during one such assignment, repairing a fence near a local real estate office, that a group of prisoners observed an unremarkable yet profound aspect of American life, the purchasing of homes by ordinary citizens. This scene unfolded before them as families engaged in discussions about mortgages, gardens, and long-term plans, concepts that were largely foreign in their experiences back home in Germany. The real estate office, a modest building situated at the edge of a growing suburb, was a hub of activity. Pamphlets advertising home ownership for teachers, factory workers, and clerks were prominently displayed, promoting the idea that stability and prosperity were attainable for all, not just the elite. As the prisoners worked, they watched a young couple sign papers for a 2-bedroom home financed over decades, a transaction as routine as purchasing daily necessities. This moment was a stark contrast to the prisoners' own expectations of property ownership, which in Germany was often the privilege of the wealthy or inherited through generations. Life within Camp Sheridan was characterized by a structured discipline system. Rules were clearly defined, with punishments for infractions ranging from loss of privileges to solitary confinement. Medical access was systematically organized, with the camp hospital providing treatment for common ailments and injuries under the supervision of Army medical personnel. Mail services were facilitated by the Red Cross, allowing prisoners to maintain limited contact with families back in Germany, though all correspondence was subject to censorship. Educational and recreational opportunities were provided through programs organized by the YMCA, which facilitated language classes, vocational training, and sports activities. These programs aim to occupy the prisoners' time constructively, while subtly promoting democratic ideals through exposure to American culture and values. In the years following the war, repatriation efforts were gradually initiated under post-war directives. These included re-education programs designed to dismantle Nazi ideology and prepare the prisoners for reintegration into a post-war Germany. However, for those who had witnessed the ordinary yet significant act of Americans buying homes, the ideological dismantling had already begun, not through overt indoctrination, but through the observation of a society where stability and opportunity seemed within reach for all. The narrative of that morning at the real estate office remains a poignant reflection of the differences between two worlds. It highlights the transformative experiences of German POWs whose exposure to American life provided a glimpse into a radically different social order, challenging their preconceived notions and planting seeds of change that would resonate long after their return to Europe. The German prisoners of war at Camp Sheridan continued their labor near the real estate office, their tasks uninterrupted by the brief glimpse into American life they had witnessed. The sight of the young couple finalizing the purchase of their home lingered in the minds of the prisoners, serving as a stark contrast to their own experiences of home and property. For these men, accustomed to a system where land ownership was typically a privilege of the elite, the notion of purchasing a home through a series of negotiations and financial arrangements was both bewildering and enlightening. In Germany, property was often passed down through generations or acquired by those with significant means. The concept of an ordinary worker securing a mortgage to buy a house was unfamiliar. Here in Alabama, the prisoners observed a societal structure where stability was, ostensibly, within reach for many. The young couple, likely representing a broader demographic of teachers, factory workers, and clerks, embodied an accessibility to prosperity that defied the prisoners' preconceptions. The prisoners' labor, primarily consisting of fence repairs and other maintenance tasks, afforded them a vantage point to observe these interactions. Each day, as they reported to their work assignments, the real estate office remained a focal point of curiosity. The brochures displayed in the office window advertised homes with enticing terms, low down payments, fixed interest rates, and long-term financing options. These details, though mundane to the average American passerby, represented an intricate web of possibilities to the prisoners. Despite the limited communication between the POWs and American civilians, the prisoners gathered insights through their observations. The real estate office was a bustling hub, frequented by individuals and families alike, each with their own aspirations of homeownership. The POWs noted the diversity among these prospective buyers, recognizing a variety of professions and backgrounds. This inclusivity was a stark departure from the rigid class structures they were accustomed to. The American system of homeownership, characterized by its reliance on credit and long-term financial planning, further intrigued the prisoners. The process of acquiring a home involved more than mere financial capability. It required navigating a network of institutions, from banks to real estate agents, each playing a role in facilitating the transaction. This orchestration of financial mechanisms was a testament to the systemic accessibility that defined the American dream. The prisoners, while unable to fully comprehend the intricacies of this system, observed its effects. A society where property was not solely the domain of the wealthy. The prisoners continued their work under the watchful eyes of the camp guards as days turned into weeks. The routine of labor was punctuated by these moments of observation, each encounter with American civilian life adding to their understanding of an unfamiliar socio-economic landscape. The real estate office, with its revolving door of clients and transactions, served as a microcosm of a broader societal ethos. The impact of these observations was subtle yet profound. The prisoners, many of whom were exposed to Nazi propaganda extolling a rigid and hierarchical society, found themselves confronted with an alternative model. The accessibility of homeownership in America challenged these preconceptions, presenting an egalitarian vision of prosperity. While the inner emotions of the prisoners remained shielded by the narrative's objective tone, the environment they observed spoke volumes. At Camp Sheridan, the German POWs continued their daily routines, yet their exposure to American life left an indelible mark. The real estate office, a seemingly ordinary establishment, became a symbol of a societal structure that prioritized opportunity and stability for a diverse populace. As the war drew closer to its conclusion, the prisoners' experiences in Alabama would accompany them back to Germany, shaping their understanding of a world beyond conflict and hierarchy. The broader implications of these observations extended beyond the confines of Camp Sheridan. The American model of home ownership, as seen through the eyes of the POWs, highlighted a key ideological divergence between the two nations. In America, the pursuit of property was intertwined with the notion of personal agency and economic mobility. The German prisoners, through their daily encounters, witnessed a society that embraced these principles, fostering an environment where aspiration was not limited to a select few. The juxtaposition of these systems served as a catalyst for reflection, prompting the prisoners to reconsider long-held beliefs about wealth, class, and opportunity. The realization that stability and prosperity could be negotiated at a desk with coffee rather than inherited or dictated by birthright was a revelation. The prisoners' observations, while objective and devoid of emotional interpretation, hinted at a gradual dismantling of ideologies rooted in exclusivity. As they observed day after day, the prisoners began to notice the nuances of American life that were interwoven with the real estate transactions. They saw how families discussed their futures, how couples speculated on neighborhoods, and how single buyers dreamt of their first homes. The language was foreign, but the aspirations were universal. These everyday scenes of hope and ambition were unlike anything the prisoners had experienced in their homeland, where such dreams were often stifled by the rigid social order. The experiences of the German POWs at Camp Sheridan were emblematic of a broader historical narrative. Their time in Alabama, marked by labor and observation, provided a unique lens through which to view the cultural and ideological contrasts between wartime Germany and America. The accessibility of home ownership, as witnessed by the prisoners, underscored the transformative potential of societal structures that prioritized inclusivity and opportunity. As the prisoners prepared for repatriation, the lessons gleaned from their time in America remained with them. The real estate office, with its ordinary transactions and extraordinary implications, stood as a testament to a different way of life. The POWs departed Camp Sheridan with a newfound understanding of a socio-economic system where stability was not a distant dream, but a tangible reality for many. This realization, born of observation and reflection, marked a pivotal moment in their journey from captivity to freedom, from conflict to contemplation. The notion that one could build a life not through privilege but through effort and opportunity was a powerful lesson. This understanding, forged in the crucible of wartime captivity, illuminated a path of possibility that extended beyond national borders. As they returned to Germany, these men carried with them a vision of what could be, a society where the fruits of labor were accessible to all, where dreams were attainable, and where the future was shaped not by the accidents of birth, but by the aspirations of the heart. In the end, the experiences of the German POWs at Camp Sheridan transcended the boundaries of their immediate circumstances. They offered a glimpse into the enduring human spirit, the universal desire for a better life, and the profound impact of systems that empower individuals to pursue their dreams. The lessons learned in Alabama, though born of observation from the periphery, resonated deeply within the hearts of those who had witnessed a different kind of freedom. In the early hours of the day, the German prisoners at Camp Sheridan resumed their assigned tasks, the rhythmic clinking of tools against fences echoing through the camp like a metronome marking the passage of time. The southern sun cast its warm glow over the landscape, painting a vivid picture of the rural Alabama setting where the POWs found themselves temporarily rooted. The golden rays filtered through the tall pine trees, casting dappled shadows on the ground and creating an interplay of light and shadow that seemed almost symbolic of the duality of their existence, prisoners of war, yet witnesses to a world of freedom and opportunity. Their labor, though monotonous, was punctuated by moments of curiosity and reflection, particularly when proximity to American civilians offered glimpses into a lifestyle starkly different from their own. The prisoners, clad in their distinctive uniforms, became silent observers of a society that, despite its own wartime struggles, seemed vibrant and full of possibilities. They watched with a mixture of envy and admiration as life unfolded outside the confines of their camp, each scene a tableau of normalcy that contrasted sharply with the upheaval they had experienced in their homeland. The prisoners were often stationed near the local real estate office, a modest structure that belied the significant transactions occurring within its walls. The office, with its weathered wooden facade and a small sign swinging gently in the breeze, was a hub of activity, drawing people from all walks of life. It was here, amidst the mundane task of repairing fences, that they witnessed scenes emblematic of American life during this era. Families arrived in cars, their demeanor a blend of anticipation and resolve as they gathered around the agent's desk to discuss the prospect of homeownership. The office was a microcosm of American society, bustling with energy and purpose. Agents dressed in crisp shirts and ties moved with a sense of urgency, armed with pamphlets and clipboards, facilitating the dreams of hopeful buyers. These pamphlets, often left in view of the prisoners, were colorful and inviting, presenting a vision of accessibility and opportunity. They advertised an array of homes, from quaint two-bedroom cottages with white picket fences to larger family residences complete with sprawling lawns and modern amenities. Each advertisement was accompanied by illustrations and detailed descriptions, painting a picture of domestic bliss that seemed almost utopian. The promise of home ownership was extended to teachers, factory workers, and clerks, professions regarded with respect, yet often devoid of such tangible prospects in Germany. The process of purchasing a home unfolded with remarkable simplicity. Couples, some with young children in tow, engaged in discussions that revealed a pragmatic approach to securing their futures. Terms like mortgage rate, down payment, and amortization peppered their conversations, terms that, while technical in nature, signified an attainable path to stability. The signing of papers, a mere formality to finalize these transactions, was conducted over cups of steaming coffee, an informal gesture that underscored the contrast with the high-stakes property negotiations familiar to the prisoners. The young couple that had caught the prisoners' attention earlier in the week returned to finalize their purchase. Their faces bore expressions of excitement and relief as they emerged from the office holding a set of keys, a tangible representation of their newfound status as homeowners. For the prisoners, this scene encapsulated a dynamic societal structure, one where individuals could actively shape their destinies through structured yet accessible means. This accessibility was underscored by the diversity of the clientele frequenting the office. The Germans observed individuals from various walks of life, factory workers with oil-stained hands, teachers with chalk dust on their sleeves, and clerks with ink-stained fingers, each stepping confidently into the realm of property ownership. Such scenes were a testament to a socio-economic system that prized opportunity and egalitarian ideals, contrasting sharply with the hierarchical nature of property ownership in Germany. In their homeland, the path to owning property was often fraught with barriers, reserved for those with the right connections or inherited wealth. Here, in this foreign land, the rules seemed different, the playing field more level. The prisoners' observations were further enriched by their interactions with the American guards and civilian workers who supervised their activities. These interactions, though limited by language barriers and wartime protocols, provided additional context to the societal norms they were witnessing. The guards, many of whom came from similar backgrounds as the home buyers, often shared insights into their own experiences and aspirations, inadvertently painting a fuller picture of the American dream. They spoke of their own plans and hopes for the future, of saving up for a down payment, of dreams of a little house with a garden, and perhaps a dog for the children to play with. These conversations, though often brief and constrained by the formalities of their roles, offered the prisoners a glimpse into the mindset of ordinary Americans. Camp Sheridan itself, with its rows of barracks and regimented routine, stood in stark contrast to the scenes of domesticity unfolding beyond its perimeter. The camp was a temporary enclave, defined by its transient population and the rigid structure of military discipline. Yet, within this environment, the POWs were afforded a unique vantage point, one that allowed them to observe and reflect upon the broader societal constructs at play. The barracks, stark and utilitarian, were a far cry from the cozy homes being acquired outside. Yet, within these confines, a silent transformation was occurring as the prisoners absorbed the sights and sounds of a society so different from their own. As the day drew to a close, the prisoners returned to their quarters, the conversations and images from the real estate office lingering in their minds. The concept of home, so casually and universally pursued by the Americans, resonated with them on a fundamental level. It was a notion imbued with stability and permanence, qualities that had been elusive in their own lives due to the upheaval of war and the rigid socio-economic structures of their homeland. The idea that one could aspire to own a piece of land, a home to call their own, was both alien and profoundly compelling. The ideological contrasts observed by the POWs extended beyond the realm of real estate. They were emblematic of broader cultural and economic differences between the two nations at war. In Germany, ownership and opportunity were often dictated by lineage and social status, creating a landscape where advancement was limited to a select few. In America, however, the prisoners witnessed a society where mobility and self-determination were woven into the fabric of everyday life, offering a potent counterpoint to their prior experiences. These observations did not go unnoticed by the prisoners, who, despite the constraints of captivity, engaged in quiet discussions amongst themselves. Their conversations, conducted in hushed tones within the confines of their barracks, reflected a growing awareness of the ideological disparities between their own upbringing and the American way of life. The accessibility of home ownership served as a microcosm of the broader freedoms and opportunities available in this foreign land. As the war neared its conclusion, the prisoners' reflections on these experiences began to shape their outlook on the future. The knowledge gained from observing American society, though filtered through the lens of captivity, offered a glimpse into possibilities previously unimaginable. The notion that stability and prosperity could be achieved through structured systems and equitable access left an indelible mark on their perceptions. Upon the war's end, as the prisoners prepared for repatriation, these insights accompanied them back to Germany, woven into the fabric of their post-war identities. The ideological dismantling they had witnessed through the environments and systems around them had subtly influenced their understanding of socioeconomic structures and the potential for individual agency. In the years that followed, the returnees carried with them the knowledge of a world where opportunity was not a privilege reserved for the elite, but a right accessible to all. This understanding, born of their experiences at Camp Sheridan, would inform their contributions to the rebuilding of their homeland, infusing it with a newfound appreciation for the possibilities inherent in a more egalitarian society. Thus, the story of the German prisoners at Camp Sheridan, set against the backdrop of wartime America, serves as a poignant reminder of the power of observation and reflection in shaping perspectives. It underscores the impact of cultural exchange, even in the most unexpected of circumstances, and highlights the enduring influence of exposure to diverse socioeconomic systems in fostering a greater understanding of the world and one's place within it. The German prisoners of war, POWs, at Camp Sheridan found themselves engaged in routine yet labor-intensive tasks that defined their daily existence. These tasks often brought them close to the perimeter of the camp, where a sturdy fence separated them from the outside world. The fence they tended to ran parallel to a narrow, dusty road that led straight into the heart of a small, bustling town. It was a route that saw frequent traffic from families traveling in their automobiles and children riding bicycles, a scene that presented a window into the daily lives of American civilians, a stark contrast to the regimented and hierarchical society from which the prisoners hailed. On one particularly bright and warm day, as the POWs busied themselves mending a section of the fence, they noticed a gathering at a nearby real estate office. This office, a modest structure with a pristine white facade, stood out against the backdrop of the small town. Its large windows were adorned with colorful pamphlets and advertisements, catching the sunlight and the eyes of all who passed by. Through these windows, the prisoners could observe families entering and exiting, their expressions ranging from contemplation to satisfaction, each visit a small but significant event in their lives. Inside the office, although the discussions were inaudible to the prisoners, the visual cues painted a vivid picture. Animated gestures, nods of agreement, and the occasional exchange of documents told a story of negotiation and decision-making. Families would emerge from the office, often holding a small bouquet of flowers, a thoughtful and customary gesture from the real estate agents to welcome them into the community as new homeowners. This ritual of home ownership, so commonplace in America, was a revelation to the prisoners. In their homeland, property was often a privilege of birthright or wealth, not a possibility for the average citizen. The pamphlets displayed in the windows of the real estate office offered an array of housing options, each detailing the financial mechanisms that made home ownership possible for a broad spectrum of the population. Terms such as affordable mortgages and long-term financing were prominently featured, underscoring the accessibility of what was famously known as the American dream. Teachers, clerks, and factory workers, professions that, in the prisoners' homeland, rarely aspired to property ownership, were actively engaged in securing their own homes. This was a society where opportunity seemed to be within reach for all, regardless of social standing. For the POWs, the sight of a young couple signing the paperwork for their first home was particularly striking. They were dressed in modest attire, yet their faces beamed with a sense of accomplishment and hope for the future. Their decision to purchase a home, facilitated by a system of credit and trust, exemplified a societal structure that prioritized opportunity over inheritance. The ability to negotiate a future at a desk with coffee in hand epitomized a level of autonomy and stability that was foreign to the prisoners' experiences. These families, engaging in the rituals of financial planning and property acquisition, subtly challenged the prisoners' ingrained perceptions of class and opportunity. The realization that stability was within reach for various strata of society was a concept that widened the prisoners' understanding of socio-economic systems. It was an implicit dismantling of the ideologies that had dominated their upbringing, where social mobility was often limited and dictated by heritage. As the days turned into weeks, the POWs continued their work, each day offering new insights into the fabric of American life. They observed the rhythm of the town, the daily commute of workers, the laughter of children playing in well-tended yards, and the community gatherings that marked the weekends. These scenes, though mundane to the locals, illustrated a societal cohesion and accessibility that were absent from their war-torn homeland. It was a society where the community spirit thrived, where neighbors knew each other and lent a helping hand in times of need. The prisoners' observations were not confined to the realm of economics alone. The diversity of the American populace, evident in the variety of faces and languages they encountered, further highlighted the inclusive nature of the society. The notion that individuals from different backgrounds could coexist and prosper in a shared community was yet another contrast to the homogeneous and stratified society they had known. This diversity was reflected in the schoolyards and marketplaces, where people of all ages and ethnicities mingled freely, exchanging ideas and goods, contributing to the vibrant tapestry of American life. As the war drew to a close and the prospect of repatriation loomed, the prisoners began to contemplate their return to Germany. The exposure to American societal structures and the concept of the attainable American dream left an indelible mark on their perspectives. The realization that prosperity could be achieved through merit and effort, rather than privilege and lineage, offered a new framework through which they envisioned post-war reconstruction. They began to dream of a future where opportunities were not dictated by birth, but earned through hard work and determination. The transformation was subtle, rooted not in overt indoctrination, but in the simple act of observation. The POWs' experiences at Camp Sheridan, while seemingly mundane, provided a unique lens through which they could reevaluate their own societal norms. The ideological contrasts between wartime Germany and America, once stark, began to blur, paving the way for a more nuanced understanding of opportunity and equality. They began to appreciate the values of democracy and freedom, concepts that had seemed elusive in their previous lives but now appeared attainable and desirable. In the years that followed, as many of these former prisoners returned to a rebuilt Germany, the lessons gleaned from their time in America would resonate deeply. The exposure to a society where stability and prosperity were accessible to all left an enduring impact, influencing their contributions to the burgeoning democracy they would help shape. They carried with them the ideals of fairness and opportunity, striving to build a nation that valued merit and effort over privilege and status. The narrative of Camp Sheridan thus stands as a testament to the transformative power of cultural exchange and the enduring quest for a more equitable world. It highlights how exposure to different ways of life can challenge deeply held beliefs and inspire change. The story of these German POWs illustrates the potential for growth and understanding that lies in the simple acts of observation and reflection. It is a reminder of the importance of openness and adaptability in a world that is constantly evolving, where the exchange of ideas can lead to profound and lasting transformation. In the aftermath of World War II, the German prisoners of war at Camp Sheridan were gradually repatriated to their homeland, a country in the throes of reconstruction. The experiences and observations they carried from their time in America, particularly the accessibility of homeownership and the broader societal structures underpinning the American dream, left a lasting impression on their understanding of socioeconomic opportunities. Upon returning to Germany, these former prisoners found themselves in a nation eager to rebuild and redefine its identity. The lessons learned at Camp Sheridan, embodied in the routine yet profound interactions they observed, influenced their perspectives on the potential for a more egalitarian society. They returned with a newfound awareness of how structured systems could facilitate economic mobility and opportunity for a diverse populace. The post-war period in Germany was marked by significant social and economic changes, with efforts to establish democratic institutions and promote economic recovery. The concept of home ownership, once seen through the lens of privilege, began to shift towards a more inclusive model, mirroring some aspects of the American system that the POWs had witnessed. This gradual ideological shift reflected an aspiration to create a society where stability and prosperity were attainable for a broader cross-section of the population. The former prisoners' exposure to a different socio-economic framework contributed to a subtle yet meaningful transformation in their outlook on life. Their experiences at Camp Sheridan, characterized by the observation of a society that prioritized opportunity over inheritance, resonated deeply as they participated in the rebuilding of their nation. The notion that prosperity could be achieved through effort and merit, rather than predetermined social standing, became a guiding principle in their contributions to post-war Germany. In the broader context of history, the narrative of the German POWs at Camp Sheridan serves as a microcosm of the cultural exchanges that can occur even amidst conflict. It underscores the potential for observation and reflection to challenge preconceived notions and inspire change. The story of these prisoners, who bore witness to the everyday realities of American life, highlights the enduring impact of exposure to diverse socio-economic systems in fostering a more inclusive and equitable world.